Hi everybody, I'm back again with another recipe. Today's recipe is tinned fish cakes. So everything, well not everything, but the main ingredients are out of a tin. So it's really easy to have them in a shelf, and then you can make them up when you want to. So if there's a week or a day where you can't get to the shops or you don't feel like getting to the shops, this is a great recipe for you. So first of all, I've got a tin of new potatoes, and I took them out the tin and rinsed them under the tap. And I'm just going to pop them into this bowl. And then I've got a tin of red salmon. The reason I absolutely love tinned fish is because it's often oily fish. And oily fish contains something called omega-3 fats. And I don't know if you remember a long time ago, well it feels like a long time ago now, me talking about walnuts and chia seeds when I made the overnight oats, having this particular magical substance, and it's an essential fat, which means the body cannot make it. So we have to eat it, we have to have it in our diet. The way to know whether your fish has got omega-3 fats in it is this lovely anagram called SMASH. So SMASH stands for sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon and herring. So all of those fish contain omega-3 fats, and omega-3 fats make up the majority of our brain. So if we really want to have good mental health, we want our brain to be firing on all cylinders, we want our memory to be good, we want our our moods to be good, we really need to have this omega-3 fat. And omega-3 fat is different as well because it's a kind of flexible fat. So if you imagine in your brain or in the cells in your body, you want messages to get into those cells and out of those cells. You want to have a nice flexible outer layer, and the layer is made up of fat. Now if you make it up only of fats that you would get in, say, fried food or meat like bacon or sausages, or fats that you would get like butter, and I'm not saying that these are bad fats at all, but if that was the only fat you had in your diet, you'd have quite a rigid cell wall, and it would be really hard for messages to get in and out. So it would be really hard for your body to function. So we've got this lovely salmon here, and I've just taken out the skin because I don't really like the skin very much. I don't like the colour, it's a bit grey and I don't really need it in here, but I'm leaving in the bones, and the reason I'm leaving in the bones and I'm mashing them up is because they are absolutely full of calcium. We store calcium in our bones, in our own bodies, and so do other animals. So there we are, we've got some lovely salmon all mashed up. And look at the colour of that, isn't that beautiful? So now I'm just going to mash my new potatoes. So I'm going to get them all mashed up. And because they're new potatoes, they are a little bit harder to mash. You're not going to get a really smooth, creamy mash out of this. You'll get a nice chunky textured fish cake. So we're mashing this up. And depending on how wet your potatoes are, don't go for the cheapest brand because they go a bit soggy and they're a bit falling apart. Go for a little bit more. If there's ever such a thing as there's a luxury tinned potato product, then I would suggest that. So here we are, we've got our potatoes mashed up, and then we've got our salmon. And if that's all you have in your pantry, I sound so 1950s, it's VE Day has changed things for me. If that's all you've got, then that's fine, a bit of salt and pepper, but I'm going to add a few more bits just to make it a little bit more tasty. So here I've got some chives from the garden. Next time you go to the supermarket, a brilliant way to jazz up your cooking is to just buy a couple of pots of fresh herbs. They will keep on your windowsill for a few weeks, and you can add them to anything. And if you imagine the amount of nutrients in a herb, all that lovely greenery, which is going to really, really help how you feel, your mental health, then it's a really, really easy way to jazz up your food. And if you can only get cut herbs, then take them out of their packet. You can store them in in a glass with a bit of water in it, so a bit like cut flowers, or you can wrap them in wet kitchen paper and they'll last a bit longer. I'm going to add a teaspoon-ish of mustard. Any mustard will do. So I've just put the edge of that spoon in there. and I'm going to add a tablespoon of mayonnaise, and the mayonnaise will help bind it, but mayonnaise has also got mustard in it, and it's got garlic in it, and it's got lots of things that you don't need to have in the house. You can just add it in. So that was about a dessert spoon of mayonnaise. So I'm just giving it a good stir round now. A big pinch of salt, and then I'm going to add, I managed to get these, which I can open. These are little Cornichons. They're little baby gherkins, and my children absolutely love these with burgers. They love them with like sandwiches with roast beef in them or ham in them. I've got especially my middle son absolutely adores anything sort of pickly and spicy. So these were not expensive at all. I got them from Aldi, and I've just taken a few out, and this will just add a bit of sort of acidity to our fish cakes. It'll sort of give your mouth a little bit of a start when you eat it. So you're getting a bit of, you know, when sometimes when you make things like a fish cake or things that are all sort of one texture, it can be a little bit like eating baby food. These will just stop that from happening. So you can buy Cornichons in Aldi cheaply enough. You can buy capers cheaply enough. You can buy jalapeno peppers, you know, which are great on nachos. You can buy them in all quite cheaply in Aldi. And along with your fresh herbs on the windowsill, if you've got a few of these in your cupboard or in your fridge, you can make a nice tartar sauce to go with fish and chips or fish finger sandwiches, and you can use them, as I said, in nachos, sandwiches, different things like that. So there we go. I've chopped them up quite finely, and I've got them mixed in. So now I'm just going to add my salmon, and then I'm going to shape them into cakes. So the salmon is going in like so, and I'm just going to give it a further stir round. Here we are. Can you see? Look at all that lovely colour. You've got the flecks of green from the chives, you've got the gherkins, and now you've got the pink from the salmon. So there we go. So the mixture is just right. So you want a mixture that you can shape in your hand into a patty like this. So you can make them as big or as small as you want. I've got a tray here, and I'm just going to make them into that size shape. The brilliant thing about these is you can make, especially if you live on your own, you can make a number of these and you can freeze them. And if you freeze them flat like this on a tray with some kitchen paper or some baking paper on it, you can, when they're frozen, you can pick them off and pop them in a bag, and they will stay separated. And you can take out a couple the night before, and you can fry them off for a really nice dinner or supper. And that saves you having to go to the shops and buy them. So I'll just get on with this, and then we will get cooking. Okay, so I've shaped them all, and I could now go ahead and freeze them if I wanted to on this tray. I would probably put a piece of baking paper under them just so I could get them off easy enough. And I'm going to cook them to show you what they will look like finished. You could breadcrumb them, which would mean that you would sprinkle them first with flour, dip them in egg, and then roll them in breadcrumbs, and that's called panning. And if you want to know how to do that, there's loads of YouTube videos. So I'm just going to sprinkle mine with flour today, because I think that's much easier, and people have, well, I'm saying people have got flour in the house, but we've quite often got something. If you've got any polenta, that will give a nice crisp, a crispier coating to it. If you've got any, this is actually bread flour because I haven't got any plain flour left. So this is bread flour, so don't worry too much about what you've got and what you can use. If you were to fry them with nothing on them, you would still have a nice fish cake. So there we go, we've floured them all, and I'm just going to pop some oil in the pan. You want a reasonable amount of oil to get a nice crispy coating on them. So this one looks quite a nice one, looks quite a nice shape. I'm going to just just listening to see if it's, yep, it's sizzling, so it's ready to go. So I'm going to pop in a couple of fish cakes into my pan. And then I'm just going to leave them alone. So don't mess about with them in the pan too much or you might break them up. Just let them form that crust, which will give them a sort of protective layer, and it will stop them falling apart and it will make them easier to turn. So we're just going to leave them like that for 3 minutes. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because I don't want to burn the outside before the inside is done. So while that's cooking, I'm going to make up a little salad and a little bit of tartar sauce so I can eat my fish cakes. Okay, so these have had 3 minutes now on either side. I'm just going to check the inside. What I'll do is I'll put my knife in a little bit and then I put it onto my lip, my bottom lip, and I can tell whether these are hot enough. I think they need another minute or two, so I'm just going to turn them over and give them another minute on each side. I've turned the heat up a little bit to crisp them up a bit more. But remember, everything in them was already cooked. The salmon was cooked, the potatoes were cooked, so nothing needs to cook. It just needs to heat through. Nobody really wants a cold middle to their fish cake. So a really good way to test if something's done, if you don't want to cut it in half and touch it, which you can, is to put your knife down into the centre, because the centre is the bit that will heat heat last. Put it in and then you just put it gently on your bottom lip. So these are now hot enough. So they've had about 3 minutes on each side and then probably an extra minute, 30 seconds. But obviously it depends how hot your stove is. It depends on how thick your salmon cakes are. What I really want you to get from these videos is make things your own. Guess. Test things out. Unless you burn something black, nothing is inedible. If these all broke up in the pan, I'd just put a big dollop of mayonnaise on it and eat it. I might even pop it on a bit of toast or a cracker and I would eat it like that. So, you know, it'd be more like a kind of hash rather than a fish cake. So make things your own. Put the things in that you like. If you don't like these little cornichons that I added, leave them out. Don't worry about it. If you like sort of parmesan, I know that they say that fish and cheese don't go, but in Italy they'll always add parmesan onto pasta with fish. So if you like a bit of parmesan through it, that gives it that salty flavour, add it in. If you like something with a lot of black pepper in it, add it in. Make these things your own. And that's why I don't give really strict instructions or really strict amounts, because everybody's potatoes will be different. So your potatoes might be wetter than mine, so you might need to add a bit less mayonnaise, or you might want to add a tablespoon of flour just to thicken them up a little bit. So here we go. We've got our 2 fish cakes. I've got a bit of salad, and here I just mixed up a bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of those cornichons, and luckily for me, across the road, my neighbour has got masses of mint, which she's happy for me to pick at any time. So 2 down for me, I've got parsley, and across the road I've got mint. So I'm really lucky that I can, you know, use their herbs whenever I want, and sometimes I'll swap because I've got tons of other things in my garden that I'll swap with them. So here we are. I hope you really give these a go. It's really, really important in lockdown to stay healthy. It's tempting when we feel a bit low to eat all those carby things, to eat those donuts, those cakes, those sandwiches. And it's okay once in a while, or for me, cake. I do have a piece of cake every day, but what's not okay is to substitute your meals for that kind of food, especially your fish, your omega fats, which you need for your brain. You need it to stay well. So I hope you really enjoy this recipe.